What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more punk rock, and we're back with some more Bad Religion. I've been looking forward to doing this tune, and I actually thought I had already reacted to it on my old channel, but then when I went and looked at my old videos, and even when I went and looked at my old channel, which is still there, it's so weird, they told me it was going to be gone by the end of the month, it's still there. Nevertheless, I realized I hadn't actually reacted to this tune, and then it occurred to me, but I had written about it on Discogs under my Mr. Tom Servo account, so that's why I sort of remembered and thought that I had reacted to it. Nevertheless, we're talking about Skyscraper, a tune I really enjoy. One of the things in my own personal journey to secularism as I, started to think about things that like, okay, well, I know a lot of people, claim to believe these things in sort of metaphorical understandings, not necessarily everything in like a scripture and, not just Judeo-Christian scriptures, but whatever, religious texts of whatever kind. A lot of people in modern days will talk about believing things in sort of a, figurative or interpretational, metaphorical way. And I remember thinking as I was, going through my teen years that, even if you take some of these things at face value, even if you don't worry about the epistemology of, accepting like one like tradition argument from authority and, one cultural tradition while sort of ignoring all the others, which seemingly would have an equal chance of being true, even if you took something at face value, it seemed like there were a lot of metaphors and a lot of parables and stories where the underlying moral implication was dubious to me, or at least the narrative implications seemed dubious to me. And one of the ones was the story of the Tower of Babel, and I remember just thinking about it like, so wait, humans tried to come together and, work together to build something, to, achieve something new, to try to go to a place that, looked spectacular and, would be maybe exciting or provide new possibilities. So they tried to, build this large structure which takes cooperation, it takes coordination, it takes understanding, skill, knowledge, experience. But apparently the deity of this story was so, felt offended. They took umbrage at this show of, ambition by humanity and not only, struck it down, but then apparently sort of scrambled humans into a bunch of different groups which spoke different languages and couldn't communicate directly. So it just seemed like there were so many bad suggestions there that like, hey, working together to achieve something and to maybe try to bring humanity into some new realm or some new understanding. No, you don't do that. And moreover, I'm going to make it so you guys can't get along, you can't speak to each other even, I'm going to spread you out and whatever, which, if you were to take that as a legitimate explanation for different languages and different ethno-linguistic communities and so on, well then the sordid history of racism and colonial subjugation and exploitation, whatever, could then be laid at the feet of that earlier decision. So, like I said, just as a teenager, I remember thinking about that parable and being like, wow, it seems like an omnibenevolent, omnipotent, and omniscient deity would not do such a thing. And if, the qualities that he had instilled in his, children to begin with were those that they were then using to try to understand and to attain, then it's a weird thing to strike them down and to punish them and to perhaps condemn future generations of them to squabbles and bigotry and violence and exploitation and so on. So I was already sort of stewing in my head this idea of like, wow, some of these parables that even if you were to take them at face value, I'm not sure that the suggestions or the supposed lessons to be learned are actually moral or just. And then along came Bad Religion in my life after I said, or as I've said, after I discovered Propagandhi. They're the first band that I really got into in the punk rock, real sort of legit punk rock. But then I discovered Subhumans and eventually Bad Religion. So this album, it wasn't the first one I heard. Suffer Again was the first album that I heard, and that No Control and Against the Grain were the ones that I was listening to. But eventually I got around to some of their later albums, including Recipe for Hate. And when I heard Skyscraper, and when I sort of very quickly realized what he's talking about, and this is a song by Gurewitz, I should add, shout out to Brett Gurewitz, Mr. Brett. I was like, oh my god, like, yes, like, I have long sort of thought, because that's what this song is about. It's a song that sort of chastises the, supernatural deity of this story for being petty, for being like a child, and, like, oh, like, you guys are going to try to do your own thing? Well, I'm going to ruin your sandcastle, I'm taking my ball, and I'm going home. Like a spoiled little baby is the line that is used in the song. But yeah, so the idea of criticizing this parable or this narrative story in this scriptural tradition felt very legitimate to me. So again, I don't mean to offend anyone. I recognize that a lot of people practice their religious views and just try to be a good person and get through their life with their faith and so on. And if that's the case, I got no problem with it. As I said before, as long as people of whatever religion do not engage in violence, hate mongering, or censorship, I got no problem with their views, and I'll even do what I can to ensure their free and continued practice of religion. All I ask for in return is the same live and let live mentality, though we could go beyond that to a more robust interaction and so on. Nevertheless, you just want to hear the tune, so let's get to it. This is Bad Religion, Skyscraper, from their album Recipe for Hate, which I believe is 1993, but now that I say that, I'm actually not sure, so give me one moment. One moment further, I apologize. So Recipe for Hate is 1993, yes. So here we go, Skyscraper. Come let us make bricks and burn hard. We'll build a city with a tower for the world, and fly so we can reach anything we may propose. Anything at all. Build me up, tear me down, like the skyscraper. Build me up and tear down these joining walls. I always love the way Greg sings those words, jointed walls. You tore it down that day. You thought that if we got caught, we'd all go away. Like the spoiled little baby who can't come out and play. You had your revenge. Tear me down like the skyscraper. Build me up and tear down these joining walls, so they can fly at all. Guitar solo. Down, now the echo is roar. The story lived but was highly understood. And never any good. Yeah, never any good, that story. But that line, the echo was war. Holy shit. Who's an Oz? I love that really high guitar. You know what I think about faded endings, though, if you've been watching my reactions for a while. I always feel like just have an ending to the song, don't just turn the volume down. But yeah, regardless of that, I really do enjoy that song. One of my favorites on this album, even though I don't think a lot of people would say that. I think, Personal Jesus is Depeche Mode. American Jesus is what I meant to say. I think for a lot of people is maybe their favorite. I really do like the title track, Recipe for Hate. I'm trying to remember if I've reacted to it. I'll have to look. If I have, on my old channel, I'll try to get it up here. And if I haven't, I'll have to react to that one soon. It's a really cool tune. Nevertheless, do let me know what you think. Let me know if you're fond of this album. I know a couple people who've been watching the Bad Religion reactions have mentioned that of the 90s albums, I think Ryan was saying his favorite is Grey Race. I'm with that. I really do. Or like maybe he was saying the later 90s albums. I'm not sure. Because, again, like Generator and Recipe for Hate here, it's like early 90s where they're still on Epitaph. So Regardless, I do very much like this album. I think I probably like it a little better than Generator. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you're fond of this tune. Sorry for my long-winded philosophical ramblings at the beginning of the video, but sometimes I feel like certain songs, I've really thought about them over the years, and they hit me very quickly when I first heard them because they sort of resonated with some things that I had already been thinking in my life. So this is an example of one of those. So that's the reason for the slightly longer setup, but I do apologize. Anyway, thank you for listening and watching. I do appreciate it. Have a good day. Have a good night. I'll see you next time. Peace.